Rishi Sunak's pension promise, has it won your vote? 0207 862 2222. We'd love to hear from you. The Conservatives have promised to raise the tax-free pension allowance, dubbed a triple lock plus or quadruple lock. If they win the election, it would apparently make millions of older people better off. Let's just have a look at the details of this. We have to go back to the triple lock. So we start with this, OK? And this is the famous policy, isn't it? 3 locks on your pension. And let's look at what the 3 locks of the triple lock are. Lock number 1 is the rate of inflation. Lock number 2 is average earnings growth. And lock number 3 over here is 2.5%. And the triple lock, essentially, current status, every year your pension rises by the highest of the 3 locks. So it's pretty simple. Now they bring in the 4th lock. The 4th padlock attaches itself, and we can now call this maybe the quadruple lock, because there's 4 of them, OK? And the quadruple lock is this. They're essentially saying we're not going to tax you if the pension rises to the point where it goes beyond the lowest tax threshold. I'll explain with some numbers. This is the Telegraph here this morning. OK, so the threshold at which you start paying income tax is $12,570, whoever you are. The annual state pension is currently $11,500. So the threshold isn't going to rise, but the pension is. By the end of the decade, it gets to $13,277, which of course is more than the income tax threshold. So you will be paying, just do a subtraction there, tax on 707. Tax on the difference between the threshold and your pension. That's why they brought in the 4th lock, because suddenly the state pension is taking you into the lowest tax bracket. Now, if you ask why that matters, I'll show you. The point at which you start to pay income tax, we've said, is there. Bring on the sexy graph, right? Currently, state pension for most people, $11,500. Threshold, $12,570. It's so close. No wonder pensioners are going postal about it. No wonder they're upset about it, because they only need a tiny private pension on top of the state pension to be in the grasp of the state. Suddenly the Treasury wants some of their money back. And of course, they've been really under the Bunsen burner, Christian, with this one, haven't they? Yeah, so the problem for the Conservatives has been that the last budget was received quite oddly very poorly by pensioners, because it did very little for them by focusing on reducing national insurance, which they don't pay. And Labour were beginning to almost steal a march on pensioners, especially over their warnings that this pledge to abolish national insurance might be funded by taxing pensioners. So what the Tories have done is they've the Crosby, the Tory strategist, say they've got the barnacle off the boat, they've stolen a march, and they're introducing this new eye-catching policy, which, as we talked about earlier, has, it's splashed on most of the front pages. It's going to be what we're talking about for most of today, if not tomorrow and Gemma, as well. Pensioners win elections. Pensioners win elections.
Arguably, they're a very big part of the demographic. They do tend to go out and vote, and many of them tend to vote Conservative. So it's a very sort of transparent bribe, if you like. And of course, I have massive sympathy for pensioners who are trying to exist on what they've got, and the idea that they'd be taxed on it is a nonsense. That said, the fact that they haven't indexed the personal allowance for everybody, and I mean, it's so unfair. And we are paying the highest tax burden since World War II. The idea that Sunak has suddenly got all compassionate for pensioners, I'm afraid it is a transparent bribe from a party in tatters. And they need to raise that personal threshold for everybody. We're all being into fiscal drag. Even a wage rise means nothing because of inflation. And also, they're really going for it, aren't they? They're literally like anybody who's young, the future of this country. They've taken away so many opportunities. Now they're trying to enforce conscription on them. And then it's all just about the older demographic, and I think the Waspi women will have something to say about this. Well, that's true. Well.
Nick is in Devon. Do you think will this make you vote Conservative, Nick?
No, I'm afraid not. Well, not as far as the Conservatives are concerned, anyway. It certainly won't. I mean, I'm somebody that would obviously benefit from that. But I mean, the thing about it is as far as I'm concerned, they shot their boat when they sort of increased the decreased the national insurance fund. The point is, if they really wanted to do something, they should be doing something for everybody. I mean, many of us have got grandchildren and we've got families that we try and support and everything in the wake of what all the damage damage that they've done over the past 14 years. And quite frankly, I mean, this is so much a sort of an issue now that they're trying to sort of bribe all of us pensioners with this sort of this proposal, which quite honestly, when you really look at it, end of the decade, well, my God. But with 4.3 million sort of children in poverty at the moment, they should have other priorities. I want a government that's actually going to prioritise everybody.
Right, thank you very much. Derek in North Hampshire, hi.
Good morning, everybody.
What do you think, Derek?
I think it's a good idea. I think it could be a vote winner.
But what you say no? I mean, when you think about it, it's nuts that you'd ever be taxed on the state pension, because why would you give the benefit if you're going to take some of it back? So
that's exactly right. I think that's what people have been concerned about.
Yeah, but you shouldn't even be in that zone, should you, where the state pension is going up so high that it's getting into a tax bracket?
Well, that's what's been happening, and I think it's high time that the tax-free allowance has been raised. I'd also like to see, for example, ISA savings accounts, maximum investment being raised so that you could have more tax-free savings income as well.
Well, that's a bit of a middle-class thing, though, isn't it? Would they get any votes for that?
Oh, I think they would. It is mainly older generations that vote.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Christian, I mean, this is, in a way, your readers, isn't it, on the Express? But it is the old vote to bankrupt the young.
Well, the problem is we've got an ageing population, right? So
which is a good thing, actually.
Well, no, I don't think it is.
Well, I quite like to be 101. So
if you get a population that's an inverse pyramid, you can't afford these services, right? I don't think I'm going to get a pension.
No.
I was going to say by
I'm 27.
2035,
it's not going to
they're
happen.
forecasting that there won't be pensions.
Christian, are you living with your mum and dad still?
Now I'm paying over £1,000 a month in rent.
Any prospects of buying a house?
No, absolutely not. And I'm afraid
Classic,
that
isn't it?
whilst I completely appreciate that this is a short-term election tactic, I think what the Conservatives have done is so shoot themselves in the foot over the last 14 years by abandoning young people that, who are going eventually, 10 years, 15 years, will becoming the largest swathe of voters. I don't see how, at the moment, they can begin rebuilding that trust.
That's interesting. If that's the Express speaking.
Well,
even people, the middle classes with the cost of childcare or, everything from car insurance to everything going up.
Where is Labour going to magic this money from that you think is going to make everything better?
Well, I don't think they are, and I think they're being quite honest about that.
They do a trust budget.
I'd imagine they haven't even had a real look at what's in the Treasury, if there's anything at this point.
Well,
and I think
nothing.
that's why Starmer said he used to support scrapping tuition fees. Obviously, I would love that. Daughter's about to go to uni. He said we can't because we would like to invest in the NHS. I'd rather have that honesty from the start, like that you can't do everything because there isn't any money.
Well, we're going to be taxed till we bleed for the rest of our lives.
On that, Jeremy, they're costing this and the conscription nonsense by saying, well, we're going to cut down on tax fraud. Why haven't you done that over the last 14 years?
It's a kind of tradition in this country that we have every party says they're going to cut down on tax fraud just before an election. And, believe me, the HMRC are trying to do that every day of the week already. Rishi Sunak has promised to raise the tax-free pension allowance, making millions of older people better off. Has that swung the election for you? So essentially, you won't ever pay tax on your state pension if the state pension goes so high it gets into the tax bands. Sylvia in Durham, what do you think about that?
Yeah, morning, Jeremy. Well, I just think it's another one of his gimmicks. I mean, he started off with the Rwanda, sending the people to there. Cost millions and millions of pounds. Has anybody gone yet? No.
One person, they say, is
a volunteer.
Gone. One person volunteered to go.
They paid him $3,000.
All right, jolly good.
Yes.
And then it was a few weeks ago, he said that if we didn't vote for him, this country would have problems. Then yesterday, it was send all these people to back into national service. Today, it's give us old dolls, lots and lots of cash. He needs to get into reality and start and look at this country and realise just what a serious mess us Britons are in.
Yeah.
There's too much problems and he needs to get to grip with it. It's wrong.
Thank you. You've raised a very interesting issue, which is that we've got a lot of new policies involving, national service and the pension. As because the election came early, they junked policies they were about to put through the pipe.
Yes.
So the smoking thing, which he said was his finest achievement, isn't happening.
No.
Rent reform, and also cyclists who kill. So those three have gone. Thank you, Sylvia. Malcolm in Somerset. So it's 3 in, 3 out, Malcolm.
Hello. Yeah, well, my situation, I'm a bit of a floating voter.
Right.
This part of Somerset, it's either Liberals or Conservatives.
It sounds like it could be Rees-Mogg, is that right?
No. We're, what's this? The name I can never remember.
Yeah.
The point I wanted to make is just on the tax issue, which is more important. I've just summarised my using my P60s. Now, last year we got 12% increase, and that netted down because I got a small private pension to 5%.
Yeah.
And this year calculated we got 10%, and that nets down to 5%.
That's it.
Because I'm just getting into the tax thresholds.
Yeah, because so to explain, because the graphic shows that as the state pension goes up, it pushes your private pension further into the tax band, so you get more of your private pension taken away.
Correct.
Yeah. So it only works out as a 5% rise. Well, there we go. That's pretty devastating.
A lot of people would quite like salaries to go up by a similar amount, and they've not had such luck. Is the problem if we're being equitable?
Malcolm, yeah, I suppose in the end he's just talking about state pension. If you've got a private pension, that's a bonus, I suppose. Is that how to look at it?
Well, it is, but at the end of the day, my state pension is the basic pension. It had an additional state pension, which has a deduction from it because I was contracted out.
Oh, OK, thank you. Christine in Staffordshire, hi.
Morning, Jeremy.
Has he won your vote now?
No, he hasn't. I just want to say that the young lady said earlier on that the Waspi women may have something to say about this. I'm one of the Waspi women. I have had to work an extra 6 years from 60 to 66 because my pension was not going to be paid from age 60, which had been my life plan.
Yep.
And I did not have enough time. I had no notice to make any changes so that I could have, let's say, an additional private pension.
Hang on, Christine. Christian disagrees because
you had years of notice. This was passed under Labour and didn't come in for years later.
No, we didn't.
Yes,
no, we didn't.
It was
because
terrible
we didn't always get a letter. We didn't all receive information.
What? So it's not your responsibility
wrong.
To keep on top of what's happening with your own pension, is it?
You are wrong. This is ridiculous. We have the lowest pensions in Europe. And you are honestly talking about the fact that we should live on £8,000 a year.
But I think Christian's point is that it was announced in the 90s.
Yes, it was.
Maybe it was, but not everybody knew that, and not everybody understood that they would have to go and try and find another private pension provider and pay into that. So that is absolute nonsense. And I have lost, I count, about £50,000, and I am now having to work an extra 6 years, and now having retired, survive on a state pension, and I am not in good health now because of having to work those extra years.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
So, but I could see how they felt hard done by before, Christian, even more so now.
Can you imagine being able to retire at 66? What a luxury.
Young? You don't think you'll be able to?
I will not retire, or certainly not before the age of 80. There won't be a pension for me. So, and the idea, I'm sorry, the Waspi women want about 50 billion quid of public money to reimburse them because they didn't get to retire what is essentially at later middle age these days. And they want me to pay my taxes towards it. It infuriates me.
It does
it's
make
disgraceful.
me wonder why you support the Tory government, Christian.
Well, the Tory government hasn't promised to bail out the Waspi women.
But they've done zero to help your prospects of having anything.
Let's be very clear. What has happened is that the Labour Party have put up some appallingly poor options over the last 14 years. That's made the decision about who I vote for.
You're going to blame the last 14 years on the party of opposition.
No, what I'm saying is every election is a choice between the Conservatives and the Labour offering. And the idea that I will go anywhere near the Labour Party, first under the incompetence of Ed Miliband and latterly under the offensive nonsense of Jeremy Corbyn.
What, the way Miliband ate a sandwich? That was it, wasn't it? I mean,
No, I mean he was hard line. I'm afraid we're going to get something further to the left of what Miliband was offering at the time.
Well, let's
but
see.
you know,
hardly.
All right,
Well, we
let's-
are.
All right, election talk, pension talk. Carl, the Prime Minister's pension promise, has it made you think, yep, I'm going to give him a go? Go on, Carl.
Hello. Morning, Mr. Vine. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Carl, thank you.
Yes, nice shirt.
That's so kind of you. So what do you think of the pension promise?
Absolutely. Go with it all the time.
Are you a
I
pensioner
love it.
yourself?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
I've paid 45 years in the NHS. I've paid in my national insurance, my HMRC, and I deserve that money back.
So you're getting the state pension and you're getting an NHS pension, which I think,
pension,
which
yeah.
is taxed, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is, yes.
Do you think that it's okay to tax you on it? I mean, it seems unfair, really, but...
Well, I think it is unfair, but there again, I've got to look at the overall aspect. And the youngsters nowadays, they're going to have to pay for all this. And
That's
I think
why
it's
he's
only
cross.
up to us.
That's Christian
only
is
up
cross
to
about
us.
it, Carl. Can you understand why Christian's cross about that? He's 27. He can't ever
Sorry?
buy a house.
Sorry, what are you saying?
I'm saying Christian is cross. He's 27. He can't
Yeah.
ever buy a house.
Well, get out and do yourself a job, like we've done.
I don't know what this is.
No, but that's the point. They work in. They do have jobs, but they.
No, I love that as well. You think about the interest that students have to pay on their extortionate debt now as well. For me, like, somebody take that interest away. That is ridiculous.
Well, what about this for an idea, Gemma? Which is another Tory policy that seems to be coming down the line. Is simply cancel all inheritance tax, so Christian's mum and dad can give him their house.
Well,
Just cancel it.
That then only works if they don't need to use that equity for social care, which is the other great policy issue. You know, because at the moment, if both my parents died without suffering from a real illness like or need dementia care, then I would, bar a bit of inheritance
Plane crash
tax.
or
I would
something,
get, but. That's the other problem.
I'd
Is
say
if
most
your
people
parents
aren't
do go
going
through
to
that.
inherit an amount because of there's no social care that would be taxed
Yeah,
anyway.
that's true,
You get
that's true.
325
Yeah, that's a good
grand
point.
untaxed.
All right.
It's not even an issue for most people.
Thank you for your call.